Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of 100 Yards Football and Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host and producer, Logan Landers, and joining me to talk about the NFL Draft prospect in 2024, Will Shipley, the running back out of Clemson, Mr. Football, Vincent Turner. How you doing this afternoon, Mr. Turner?
How you doing, Mr. Logan Landers?
I am doing great, sir. Ready to talk some college football. But before we get into it, though, before we give our draft analysis and what we like about this young running back, be sure to give us a follow, like, comment, and of course, share and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of our show. We go live each and every single week on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you like podcasts, well, you are in luck. You can find us there each and every single week. Thanks to the fine folks at the Believe Podcast Network who hook us up. And you can find us on all major podcast streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, just to name a few. Well, Mr. Turner, I will give the ball off to you first and foremost. Give your thoughts on this running back, Will Shipley, out of Clemson.
Well, when you look at this young man, number one, I'm glad that he declared for the NFL draft because remember in the bowl game against Kentucky a few weeks ago in the Gator Bowl, there was fear that he had a serious knee injury that he came out clean. And I'm glad that the gentleman in the next couple of days declared for the NFL draft. Comes out a good program under Dabo Swinney. I thought maybe his time there at Clemson might have not lived up to expectations, but he did his part, in my opinion. When I look at him, his production, you got to give it an A+. As a dual threat running back, he had 27 yards rushing, 31 touchdowns. He averaged 5.2 yards a carry. Then that's what I love about Mr. Shipley. He had 85 receptions out of the backfield for 605 yards. You know what that spells, Mr. Landers? It spells that the guy can be a very three-down back at the next level in the NFL. Then you're looking at raw talent. I don't think we have seen the best of Will Shipley. I think when he gets to the NFL and be drafted, I think there's going to be a lot of teams that's going to be very, 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 very happy with his production. Then as a running back, playmaker. He made a lot of plays at Clemson based on his 31 touchdowns and based on 2 touchdowns he had receiving. Then what I like about him, when you talk about running backs of his caliber, because now when you look at the National Football League, you not only have to be able to run the football, you got to be able to catch it out of the backfield too. And you look at his stop and start ability. He's got what all the great ones have. He has that at a very high level. I give him an A+. And he's very patient as a running back, being able to really watch the hole and know how to get through there and create a crease. Then when you look at it, look at what he's coming from, what he had to live up to at Clemson. All the great running backs that came through there, Terry Allen, Kenny Flowers, Travis Zachary, and then Travis Etienne. And then when I look at the comparisons, if this young man can stay healthy, think about Priest Holmes, how he was a dual threat guy with the Kansas City Chiefs. Think about how Jamal Charles was also with the Kansas City Chiefs. Think about the great Marshall Faulk, who was a great dual threat, both running and both receiving. And then, of course, Christian McCaffrey. How can we not say that Will Shipley fits that mold of a great running back in the National Football League? And then LaDainian Tomlinson. He's got that skill set of those 5 players I just mentioned to really be a productive player at the next level and be a quality 3-down back. Will Shipley, I like him. I like him a lot.
Yes, sir. Well said, Mr. Turner. I'll give my thoughts on Will Shipley, and a guy who comes in 5'11", 210 pounds. And you mentioned he's got some really good stats for his time at Clemson. We know that Dabo Swinney's got the program looking right out there and trying to get back on track with how they were in the early to middle 2010s. But looking at Will Shipley, he's top 10 in school history when it comes to total touchdowns. He's got 33. As you mentioned, 31 of those coming on the ground, 2 in the air. Rushing touchdowns, he's got 31. He's also, in terms of top 10 in the school, 100-yard rushing games, he's got 10. All-purpose yards, he's got 4,253. And he's also something that he is, I think, kind of underrated in, Vincent, is in kickoff return. He can get it done there. Punt return, you name it. He is a guy who can help out there in a big way. High-level athlete, as you mentioned, but I think he's got some of the best explosiveness in the draft. You mentioned he's a patient player, but when he finds that hole and once he gets into that open space, good luck trying to catch him. He's got that high motor and that tremendous skill set. A thing I like about him, too, is you mentioned to be a good running back, especially in the National Football League nowadays, you got to be able to run the rock, but you also have to be able to catch the ball. But another factor, too, is that also helps out and what's going to keep you in the league for a long time. You got to be a good blocker. You got to block for your quarterback, and he is a tremendous run blocker, a tremendous pass blocker as a running back. And the thing, too, my final thought about him, and I always like to look at these and highlight these as need be, because let's not forget, these are student athletes, so they got to get it done in the classroom as well. Vincent, according to Clemson's official website, he has became the first Clemson scholarship player on record to graduate in 3 years with a perfect 4.0 GPA. So hats off to Will Shipley, getting it done on the field as well as in the classroom. Always have to highlight that for this young man who I expect to have big things happen to him in the National Football League. As always, Mr. Football, Vincent Turner, absolute joy talking some draft prospects with you each and every single week. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Go enjoy some football this weekend, everyone, and we'll talk to you guys